Following on from that, some of the ideas in your book relate to collaborative approaches in workplaces.
Yes.
And perhaps linking it with the idea of the constructive collaborative workplace cultures. What sort of things can managers do in a performance review meeting or preparation to be more collaborative?
Yep. So in a collaborative environment, we tend to break or expand on the relationship we have with work colleagues, with bosses, in that they tend to be less hierarchical.
Yep.
So we can speak to anybody.
Okay.
And they tend to be environments where we get to know each other. So I talk about this idea that we often have to wear a professional mask at work.
Yep.
And we have to be that person or be that role.
Right.
And who we are as a person can get left behind. Whereas in a collaborative environment, we tend to break down that professional mask and ask people to bring their whole self to work, which then means that things that are going on in our lives, we all know affect us at work.
Yep.
So whether we've got young children at home who have been up all night, whether we've got relationship challenges, whether we've got any aspect of life comes into our work and vice versa.
Yep.
So, I use an approach when I start a meeting and I ask, how much of you is here today? And typically people smile, but then they see that I'm asking a question about themselves and their life. And if they've had a hard night with their children being up all night, they're probably not going to be the sharpest at that meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. But tomorrow, they might have had a great night's sleep and they'll be the sharpest person. So what we're doing is embracing the wholeness of the human being in the workplace and working with people's strengths and weaknesses. So that's part of it. And I would say there's a certain soulfulness about that. So we're treating people like human beings, not machines who have to pretend to be 100% all the time. The other collaborative approach is that in a collaborative environment, you tend to ask a lot of questions, and as a style of leadership and management, you tend not to tell everybody what to do.
Yep.
So as it would be in a performance review, that would be a collaborative or it would be a dialogue.
Right.
So rather than it being master-servant, master being the boss, servant being the employer, ours would be a more equal relationship where we would both ask questions and be in a conversation that would be productive for both of us.
Like a consultative sort of situation.
Yeah, like a consultative.
Yeah.
Now, and often in that collaborative essence, some of the work I do is about developing people's emotional intelligence. So most of us get our job because of our resume and our qualification, and if we can interview well.
Yep.
But if we survive at work, it's predominantly about our emotional intelligence and our social intelligence to read the organisation that we're part of and work out what the real rules are.
Yep.
Because often there are rules that are on the wall, and that's what we say we are, but what we really are is something else, and that's only by experience in the organisation. So, an emotional intelligence, thankfully, is something that people can develop up all through their lives.
Yep.
It's interestingly said to peak at sort of 27, 28.
Okay.
But any development that we do from that period onwards then enables us to be more emotionally aware. And often what that means is that we can see what happens in any conversation, we can see what style people are using. It means that we can adjust our behaviour to fit in with who we're working with,
right? Which
is a powerful dynamic when we're trying to develop high-performing environments, but also in a performance review, because if you need to know the facts, and I know you need to know the facts, then I can tell you the facts.
The way that I...
So style and emotional intelligence becomes an important thing. The other aspect about collaboration is that it's not black and white. So there's a grey area. So I always see there's a balance between the science and also the art. because there's a matter of sensing into an environment to be able to do the best. So sometimes that means pushing people harder,
Yep.
but sometimes it might mean allowing them to have an afternoon off to go and watch
Sure.
their kids play sport.
Yep.
Because if a motivated person is always more productive, tomorrow they'll come back and work so productively because they've been given that chance.
Right. Right.
So that's where the culture and style and collaboration can play itself out.
Come on.
In collaborative systems, they tend to work, information travels down the organisation,
Okay.
which is what they do in a hierarchical business, where it's vertical and command and control. So collaboration still works like that, but as well, collaborative environments work, feedback goes
Bottom
up,
Yeah.
and also feedback goes across.
Okay.
So you tend to have a far more fluent environment where feedback is travelling in all directions. So therefore, it takes less time to adjust and get back on the right track in
Right.
that environment.
Better information flow.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Yep.
Yeah. Fantastic. I'm learning so much. Really. Plenty of experience and insight.
So one other thing about collaboration, I suppose, most of us think about performance reviews as a one-to-one experience.
Yep.
So I'm reviewed by my boss. But we could also have a team process review. I could be with my team members.
Yep.
My boss could be there or might not be. I could also be reviewed by, if I have direct reports, they could review me.
Right.
So that's an upward feedback process.
Yep.
And in my work, I also add another aspect, which is what I call an interphase conversation, which is every year or more frequently we do one-to-one reviews
Right.
that help me on my career path.
Yep.
What I also encourage is people to do departmental reviews to see how departments are getting on with each other. Because if there are 3 departments who all do a specific bit of work for any value chain,
Yep.
whether it's delivering a good lecture
Yep.
or delivering a carton of milk or a construction site, everybody has to do their part, and typically how we interface is where the magic is.
Yep.
Because if it flows and there are no hiccups and there's no waste, then typically our interfaces are clean and flowing. So we have a conversation between departments that talk about how, I don't know, how customer service and logistics are working together.
Okay.
And that allows then the performance review one-to-one allows me to clean up my act.
Right.
Department reviews allow then the department to work together, because it may be that my department isn't working well. I might be doing my job. If my department's not,
Right.
then that department won't be considered as a high-performing group, even though I might be.
Yep.
So that's an expansion to the performance review, because in effect, performance reviews happen by boards of directors,
Yep.
by shareholders,
Yep.
by management teams,
Yep.
by every team in the organisation, and then supplier reviews. They're all similar things. They're all assessing the performance required
Yep.
versus the performance delivered,
Yep.
and then what can we do if there's a gap to improve that.
Right. Right. So it's sort of performance review at different levels, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And obviously the personal one is the one that we're talking about, and
Yep.
it's the one that impacts on me mostly. But
Yep.
I might get a promotion into an organisation that's not successful,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
it doesn't create
Yeah.
a career path
Yeah.
perhaps that's the best.
Or an underperforming department might not leverage your good performance
Yep.
very well, or make best use of your
Absolutely.
high performance.
And I might not get opportunities
Yeah.
outside that department for that reason.
Exactly.
Because often that cross-functional team is where I might shine.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we've spent a bit of time talking about the performance review process from the organisation or manager's perspective. Some of our students might not have had a performance review experience so far, but they
Yep.
will at some point, and it's going to be a situation that's going to probably create some nerves and anxiety. In your experience, what are some of the things employees can do to manage some of the negative emotions
Yep.
that are associated with performance review?
So the thought that comes to mind is knowing thyself.
Okay. Yep.
So we spoke a little bit about emotional intelligence, And if we apply that to this preparation for my performance review, the more I'm aware of the actions, consequences of my actions, and how it's impacted on my work colleagues, department, organisation, the better I am at perhaps having a realistic picture of my performance.
Okay.
So that means I need to maybe prepare a picture of my successes.
Yep.
And prepare my picture of things that could have gone better, let's say, opportunities for development.
Yep.
Now, that's made easy if when I start my job, I get a job description and I have a performance agreement that says this is what success looks like. So not all organisations have that, but that's a good thing to ask for at the beginning, so you're clear of what success looks like for you. You know, and you may sit in your first week and have to design that for the client, for your employer.
Right.
So
right.
you might write a statement about and take that to your boss and say, if I do this, is that what success is? Yes, it is. Come back 12 months later, you